Hello and welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy. I'm Maukbe Ogun. Well, last year, as 2016 wound down, Hard Copy threw a challenge to young people, asking them to seriously consider and ponder what their future, and by extension that of Nigeria, held in store for them if they refused to consider the implications of not taking political participation seriously. The program had argued that even in the circumstances of grave economic recession or depression, the decisions which ultimately turn a country around for better or worse are taken by political leaders. Then we had two gentlemen, Ismail Ahmed of the All Progressives Congress and Anthony Ahilebo of the People's Democratic Party, talk about their experiences as young people in two main political parties. Now, here's some of what they said then.
Why is it that young people are not into politics as much as the older people? I think the answer is pretty obvious. For the same reasons that it is a very uncertain career, if you'd call it that, because it's something that you're going to get in, you don't know what's going to come out of it.
You talked about education. Now, there's a huge education gap in the country. Less than, say, what, 30% of our population, our young population is educated, and when they even finish school, do they even get the jobs that they need? The question will be, what are we doing to encourage people to come into the parties? What sort of even educational information are we giving out? Are the parties prepared for this? This can be done by people who are already there.
Well, tonight, we take a more practical look at the process of participating in politics, because if more young people or women will be elected, understanding the process is important. Ayisha is a lawyer, journalist, and now author of the book, Love Does Not Win Elections. The book chronicles the many hurdles and decisions she had to face when she attempted getting the ticket as the candidate of the PDP for the Amak Buari constituency in the House of Representatives. She's my guest tonight, and hopefully will share some of the practical lessons she's learned, which she also distilled very succinctly in her book. Well, Ayisha, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with a quote from your book, chapter 1, when you decided to run.
Sure.
You say, politics is not for the lily-livered, not when you have been socialized to be disdainful about those who get lured into it.
Sure.
Now, how big a problem is the issue of socialization?
I think it's immense, honestly. I mean, I smiled when I listened to what Ahmed said a year ago. It's not just that politics is uncertain, it's that we're socialized. The framing around politics is all wrong. It's all that it's ignoble, it's dirty, only the people who have nothing better to do go into politics. That framing, some of us have heard all our lives. So if you've been socialized to think politics is where people who have nothing better to do, almost like teaching has become in Nigeria, then you're not going to, somehow you're not wired or oriented to think that politics is your business. The truth is, politics should be everybody's business. Politics should be every Nigerian's part-time occupation. As far as I'm concerned, we should all be politicians because our country is in dire straits. So we need to reframe that. But yes, I mean, as I took that step, a lot of the internal struggle I had was not only just the uncertainty, it was also the fact that I felt I was going to be going against my upbringing, against my middle class university background where, you know, we're like, go to school, study hard, get a decent job, you know, 9 to 5. Nobody ever talked about politics. I didn't vote until I was 39. I think that's disgraceful, you know. So for me, we should be socializing young people to think the way they do in America or in UK, and I use America because we follow the presidential system. You find that people are even welcome in parties at the age of 16. You know, you have young membership categories where they're sort of, you're already going around knocking on doors, putting out flyers. Politics is communal.
And social media is not doing that for us, because I would have thought that by now. I mean, we tend to talk a lot about politics on social media, and, you know, there's also this talk about how Nigerians talk about politics and Nigeria the same way Britons talk about the weather.
The weather.
That's a Chinua Achebe's famous quote. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about politics, when we talk about bad governance, we spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong. And I agree with that. Almost every evening, in every house in Nigeria, somebody's having a conversation about what's wrong with Nigeria and how can we get it right and how we have everything we need. But what's missing is the active what's our role? Do you understand? If I, as educated, well exposed, middle class family, both my parents were educated as well, had jobs, if I didn't think it was my social responsibility to vote till I was 39, I think there's something wrong with what we're teaching, with how we're being socialized. I didn't get the sense that my country needed my vote or my participation in secondary school. I certainly didn't get that sense when I was at university. So only life lessons taught me that, oh my God, I'm not safe if I don't care who is making the policies in my country and who's taking the decisions. But that's because something happened to me. So why are we not socializing more people? So for me, if there are people on social media who are like me, we'll be looking at it from the wrong angle. We're still looking at it from the point of who is to blame, who will fix it. We will fix it.
But you did find politics dirty. You chronicled so many times, I mean, how much you needed to give out, and after every visit, how you had to give a gift, you know, and that, and in some instances, you literally had to beg, you know.
Sure.
So, in your estimation, would you say that for those who say, no, I can't go through this indignity, as it were, are they right in some way when they say, no, I can't do this?
Well, I would say two things. I would say it depends on what role you can play. And so we don't all have to run. So yes, there are some indignities, there are some processes that not everybody can stomach. But everybody can be a party member, to go to ward meetings, to contribute, to be a delegate. That's not particularly dirty. That's one thing I'll say. And then two, I'll say, what do we need to do to move our country forward? If that's what it will take, then why aren't we more prepared to do that? We should be asking ourselves what sacrifices we're ready to make to move the country forward, if you really think that we can do better than what's there. That's two. And I think the third one for me would be, then let's change the game. Does the game have to be that way? Does the game have to be you begging and kneeling down and groveling before VIPs and party owners? Does the game really have to be that way? Can it be another way? And so if we're dissatisfied with how the game is played now, why aren't we ready to disrupt that process?
I imagine that you're trying to answer that question now. Does the game really have to be that way? But did you really expect this seat at the first try?
No. To be honest, well, I'll honestly wait this way. I'll say going in, I was more like, okay, this is an experiment. But something happens to you when you're in the race. There's something, the magic that keeps you digging into your pockets and bringing out more and more and more. Is that sense that, maybe I could win. You know, it is some sort of like, if you're a gambler, I can sort of see why people are addicted to running, who, you know, throw everything in. It becomes, there's a high. There's all these people telling you can do it. And the truth is, politics is a game of deceit in a way. Nobody's going to tell you you can't win. A few honest people will tell you you can't win.